Welcome back to another Deep Dive Techstination Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm Fred Fishkin, but your hosts for this podcast are AI generated by Google's Notebook LM. Not quite perfect yet, at least sometimes, but I hope you'll find it worthwhile. Here we go.
All right, welcome in everyone to another deep dive. Today we're looking at some cool tech news and some interesting discussions, all pulled from Techstination with Fred Fishkin from March 25th through the 27th, 2025. So we're talking gadgets, gear, and really those interesting tech trends from his interviews.
Yeah, we're essentially bringing you, the listener, the key takeaways from those conversations, kind of zeroing in on the stuff that we think is the most significant, the most interesting, and why you should care about it.
Right. We've done all the work for you. And we're going to start with computers. On Tuesday, March 25th, Techstination featured someone from OWC, that's Otherworld Computing, and they were talking about the company's latest work, specifically focusing on Thunderbolt 5. Now we also see mentions of Larry O'Connor, who's probably also from OWC, and computers and SSDs in general. But for you, the listener, if you're using computers regularly, especially for things like digital photography or video editing, what does Thunderbolt 5 actually offer in terms of speed and connectivity?
Well, the really big thing here is that we're seeing the potential for a massive jump in how quickly we can move large amounts of data, right? Thunderbolt has always been about high speed, enabling things like fast external storage, connections to multiple high-resolution screens, all that kind of stuff. But Thunderbolt 5 really kicks things up a notch. I mean, we're talking speeds of up to 80 gigabits per second.
Wow, that's fast.
Oh, yeah. And just to put that in perspective, that's double the speed of the fastest connections that a lot of people are using right now. So imagine transferring these huge video projects or backing up your massive photo libraries in literally half the time.
That's got to be a game changer for some people. I mean, think about photographers, right? They're dealing with hundreds of high-resolution raw images after a shoot, or video editors working with those like enormous 4K or even 8K files. This could completely change the way they work, really turning what used to be a very time-consuming process into something that's much faster and much smoother.
Now, you mentioned connectivity too. So how does Thunderbolt 5 change how we connect, all our different devices? Yeah, and that's actually another big advantage of Thunderbolt 5. So it's designed to actually offer more bandwidth per device when you have multiple things connected. So instead of the total bandwidth being split equally, which can sometimes create bottlenecks if you've got several demanding devices running at the same time, Thunderbolt 5 actually provides more dedicated lanes for each device. So that ensures smoother operation, across the board.
Okay, so I'm thinking an external SSD, a high-res monitor, a capture card, all running at the same time.
Exactly. And because of these dedicated lanes, they'll all run smoothly without slowing each other down. Plus, this could even lead to much simpler setups, less cluttered with fewer hubs and adapters.
So it's not just about the raw speed for single transfers. It's also about handling multiple high-performance devices all at once without any of those slowdowns. This is definitely a technology worth keeping an eye on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for anyone who's investing in a powerful workstation, this feels like something that could really unlock the full potential of all their hardware now and in the future, too.
Okay, let's switch gears now to something that could be super helpful to a lot of car owners. On Wednesday, March 26th, Techstination had a discussion about this company called Spark, and they're working on something pretty interesting. They want to offer a free AI tool to help you diagnose what might be wrong with your car. The concept of a free AI mechanic, it definitely catches your attention.
It really does.
But how would such a tool even work? What kind of car problems could it potentially help with? And what would the real value be for those everyday car owners who, maybe don't know that much about cars?
Well, this is one of those areas where AI could really change things for everyone. And while we don't know all the technical details from the interview excerpts, we can speculate a bit. It's very likely that this Spark tool uses a mix of user input and this massive database of car knowledge. So imagine, you're describing the symptoms you're experiencing to an app, right? Maybe it's a strange knocking sound, a warning light on the dashboard, or even just a change in how your car drives or feels. And the AI then uses natural language processing to understand what you're describing, right?
Okay.
And it cross-references that with known issues for your specific car's make and model.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then based on that, it suggests the potential causes. It could be anything from really simple fixes to more serious problems that would need a mechanic's attention.
So instead of immediately freaking out when a light comes on, you could actually get a basic idea of what might be happening, and all from your phone. That would be pretty empowering.
Right. And potentially, it could even help you avoid those unnecessary trips to the shop, for those smaller issues.
That would be great.
Yeah. So a big potential benefit is, that initial self-diagnosis and a much better understanding of what's going on with your car. It could also help you have more informed conversations with your mechanic.
Hmm.
So instead of just saying, my car's making a weird noise, you can say, my car's making a knocking sound. And this AI tool thinks it could be because of this or that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it could save you a lot of time and money. But of course, it's super important to remember that this is just a first-line diagnostic tool, right? It wouldn't replace a proper inspection by a qualified mechanic, especially for complex or safety-critical issues.
Makes sense. It's a helpful tool, but it's not a replacement for real expertise when you really need it. Okay, let's move from fixing problems to something a little more fun, like keeping things cold. On Thursday, March 27th, Techstination talked about the Everfrost 2, and that's an electric cooler from Anker Solix. The interview actually featured Emmeline Bonifoy from Anker Solix and, of course, Fred Fishkin. So for you, the listener who enjoys gadgets and all that cool gear, what makes this electric cooler different from the traditional ice-filled kind?
Well, I think the really neat thing about the Everfrost 2 is how it takes the basic function of a cooler and then adds all this modern tech to make it so much more convenient and efficient.
Yeah, I mean, traditional coolers, they rely on ice. That's bulky, it melts, and then you're left with, soggy food.
Exactly. Electric coolers, like this Everfrost 2, they use a built-in refrigeration system. It's kind of like having a mini fridge built into your cooler. And this allows for really precise temperature control. So that means that your food and drinks, they stay cold consistently without any of that ice.
Oh, so no more digging around for a drink in a puddle of water.
Exactly. Plus, you get more storage space, too, because you don't need all that ice.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. What about portability, though? I mean, are these electric coolers stuck being plugged in all the time, or can you actually take them on the go?
Oh, you can definitely take them with you. Most modern electric coolers, and this Everfrost 2 is almost certainly one of them, come with rechargeable batteries. And that allows for true portability. So they're perfect for, camping trips, picnics, tailgating, anything like that.
So you can keep things cold for a good amount of time without being plugged into a car or anything.
Exactly. We may even start seeing features like solar charging compatibility to make them even more useful off-grid. And of course, we can probably expect those smart features too. Maybe an app that lets you monitor and control the temperature remotely.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe even integrated USB ports for charging your other devices. It's all about taking those conveniences and features we love in our tech gadgets and adding them to something as simple as keeping things cold.
All right, so we've talked about computers and coolers. Let's stick with vehicles, but on a much bigger scale. The last interview we'll cover, also from Thursday, March 27th, focus on the 2025 Ford F-150 Lightning. That's Ford's electric pickup truck. So for anyone out there who's really interested in the future of cars and trucks and how electric vehicles are changing things, especially when it comes to those larger vehicles, what are the big takeaways about this latest model?
Well, the fact that they're continuing to develop the Ford F-150 Lightning, that tells us a lot about how quickly the electric vehicle market is advancing, especially in that truck segment. I mean, the excerpts we have don't go into a ton of detail about the new model, but the fact that they're talking about the 2025 model already suggests there are some pretty significant updates.
Okay.
Yeah. And these updates could be anything, really. Maybe they've made improvements in battery technology. That would mean a longer driving range on a single charge, which is a really big deal for a lot of people. Or we might see improvements to the truck's software, making that infotainment system easier to use or adding those new driver assistance features.
Yeah, range has always been the big question mark for some potential EV truck buyers, especially those who need to travel long distances or tow heavy loads. So any improvements there would be a big selling point. But what about all those practical aspects of using an electric truck? The Lightning already has some unique stuff, like being able to power tools at a job site or even your house during a power outage, right? Were there any hints about advancements in those areas?
Well, there very well could be. The car makers, they're always looking for new ways to make their EVs more appealing. And those electric powertrains, they have some distinct advantages. And Ford has really been pushing those power export capabilities of the F-150 Lightning. So it wouldn't be surprising at all to see more developments in that area.
So maybe even more power output or more charging options.
It's definitely possible. We might even see some improvements in towing capacity and payload, too.
Right.
All those core features that are so important to traditional truck owners. Really, I think the updates to the 2025 F-150 Lightning are all going to be about making electric trucks even more attractive and practical for more and more people.
All right, so we've covered quite a bit. We talked about some pretty big advancements in how our computers connect and move data around. We touched on the potential of AI to make like initial car troubleshooting so much easier. We talked about these new, smarter ways to keep things cold. And we even looked at the continued progress we're seeing in electric trucks. It's pretty clear that there's a ton of exciting stuff happening in the world of tech.
Absolutely. I think what we're seeing is that technology isn't just evolving, it's really starting to integrate into and improve so many parts of our lives, from the way we work to our everyday routines and even the future of how we get around. It's pretty amazing stuff.
It really is. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Techstination. But before we go, we want to leave you with something to think about. You know, we've talked about all these cool innovations. We've talked about that incredible speed and connectivity, how AI could make diagnosing problems so much easier, and this big push toward making things more efficient and electric and everything from gadgets to cars and trucks. So here's the question. What other everyday tools or activities do you think could be totally changed by AI or electrification in the next few years? What are you most excited to see as technology keeps moving forward? That's something for you to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
That's it for this weekly deep dive wrap up. Thanks for being with us. I'm the human here, Fred Fishkin.